Well, hello, friends, and thank you for joining me yet again. Well, as you know, we are huge supporters of Divine Will on this channel, and I guess we always want to try encourage you to pick up really practical tools that will help you to grow in the knowledge of this gift and I guess to live it in a great practical way. And joining me today is Mary Zugal over there in America to share on this great new tool we want to share with you. Hello, Mary. How are you doing there?
Good, Carol. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh,
Very
you're very,
excited
very.
about this topic.
I know. Well, I wanted to get you on because obviously you are a huge Divine Will promoter over there in America. You love the Divine Will quite as much as we do over here. So I thought I'd just get you on to have a chat about this wonderful new book called Forming Divine Will Habits by a guy called John Caulfield, who's Irish. And this book is wonderful. Wouldn't you agree? There's so much in it.
Yes.
But I just want to talk about again why people should read it. Because again, it's a book that's very open and honest, right, Mary? Would you agree? It covers a lot. It moves
Yes, it
very, very
does.
quickly. It moves very,
Yes.
very quickly. And it's an easy read. But more importantly, friends, this book is a great practical guide to live in the divine will. Because we all know the divine will is huge. Trying to wrap your head around it can be a challenge for most folk. And most people now with their busy lifestyles just want to pick up a book and go, yeah. Wouldn't you agree, Mary? This is
Oh,
something
yeah. It fits our lifestyle. And also, although it's easy, it's giving you very practical, deep ways of living in the divine will, making you self-aware every day of something new because like you said, it covers so many points that are important and that we will know by reading it that they are things that affect each of us. These are not random spiritual teachings. These are practical everyday life teachings.
indeed. And I just want to say that Frances Hogan has wrote the foreword. So you're in safe hands with this book because we all know Frances is a great biblical scholar. She also is a great teacher on the divine will. But I just
Yes.
want to share with you some of the subjects he touches in this. He talks about forgiveness, distractions, remaining alert, your ego, emotional wounds, healing, growth, divine currency, which was a fantastic one, guilt, and the list goes on. But
Yes.
I think, for me personally, I like a book that kind of flows, that goes from, moves quite quickly, that's quite succinct. And what I found about John's book, it moved quickly, right? It wasn't exhaustive. The chapters weren't laborious and long. He got straight to the point, and I found that very beneficial, Mary. Would you
Yes,
agree?
yeah, I agree. I found that he also includes the writings. So he ties scripture, he ties the writings
Yeah.
into his own
Yeah.
teaching. So you're being formed in the divine will as you're reading his experiences and how he gives us real life tips. And I also found as I was reading it, I was excited about sharing it with other friends
Yeah.
because I told my husband immediately, I think we should read this book together and just share each of these little teachings. And then you have conversation. How does this impact my life? So yeah, I find it that you can use it in a group, you can use it individually, or you can use it to share with a friend.
Yeah, and it's one of those books, what you can pick up at any time. If you're going through a particular challenging time in your life and you need direction, this was this, and you know what? I found it most useful. And he uses the word fuse a lot throughout the book, which I really, really liked because we hear about this throughout the Divine Will and indeed the volumes. And friends, this is also, I would say, a book that's about his own life, his own
Yes.
experience. John has been in the Divine Will for a few years now, so he kind of knows what he's talking about. And he also shares about pre-Divine Will, my life pre-Divine Will. So he kind of compares what life was like at the beginning and what it's like now. And he doesn't shy away from the challenging things. That's what I loved about this, particularly was the honesty. He
Yes.
was so open and honest about his own shortcomings, his failings. It was a real practical guide, again, talking about the purity of intention, Mary, right? how our
Absolutely.
hearts have to be in the right place.
That's the core of it. That's what he always goes back to, and I think all of us would agree that the intention is the core of the divine will. And in the human will, we are going to fail. But if our intention is pure and our desire is pure, then we stay within that circle that we're of the divine will that we're trying to stay in. But going back to how vulnerable he is in his writings, where he shares his story pre-divine will, post-divine will. Even in the post-divine will, he's very vulnerable too.
Yes.
And again, I made the same mistake. It makes us feel very comfortable with the reading, because it seems like you're reading a friend is talking to you. You're learning from a friend who's sharing his life too in the divine will. So I found myself almost conversing with John on some of his points.
Yes. Yes.
I do remember one where I felt like, well, I don't know that happens to me. I literally was having this thought that somehow I was spared from this need to do a better in a certain habit, and until I had the day to reflect on it, and I realized how many times I was actually doing what he had spoken about and had not noticed it.
Yeah.
He makes mention of that. Being aware is the most important, is the first step. You have to be aware of what's happening.
Exactly. And I love the title of the book, Forming Divine Will Habits, because everybody is so busy, right? And it can be difficult to remind ourselves at times to live in the divine will, but he gives us the tips, remembering to fuse all the time. That's why I love it, remembering to fuse. And again, we will make mistakes, we will fall down, none of us are perfect, we're all on this journey together. And he doesn't shy away from things, particularly around suffering, which is something that we're all challenged with, right? But he tells us to lean into the Lord, to lean into him, to unite with him, to fuse with him. And he also talks about trust. Yes. And the chapter on trust is very, very simple. It's all pointing towards the Lord, trust him. It was actually beautifully written, I thought.
Yes, it's they're stepping stones. He puts one step and then the next step, and it's just like you're following a path of building divine will habits. I find, in our world of professional counselors, I found it very helpful too, to know how I might be able to guide even people who are not in the divine will in a subtle divine will way, because anxiety, depression is so focused on ourselves. And this book was wonderful in showing you how to put the hope, the trust, and out of yourself, and in all of your anxieties and worries and depression, put them in the Lord and in the divine will, of course, fusing all of this. And that's the divine currency.
Indeed. That's another one, divine currency he talks about, which is again offering up your suffering, consoling the Lord, which is divine currency. But I guess, again, talking about being counselors and all that, one of the things in counseling, you always want to get people to address their pain, not to shy away from it. And John also captures that in this book, where he says it's so important to journey with your pain, to feel it.
That's right.
Because the majority of folk nowadays don't want to do that. We keep ourselves busy, etc., in order not to face that pain.
Mm-hmm.
But
want a magic pill to get rid of the pain.
Exactly. Or we want to, get ourselves in all kinds of addictions. But he encourages us to embrace it, because I guess the only way through it is to embrace it, to come out the other side, right? Yes. But when you're coupled with the Lord, it brings on a whole new dimension.
Yes, and you fuse it in the suffering the Lord had also for us. So using the Passion, the book of the Passion, to fuse and to learn all of these different things the Lord did to repair and to divinize all of our acts. Those are in suspense. They're voids that are waiting for us to say, I love you, Lord, I glorify you in all of this. So this is our divine currency. And I like the word habit. I go back to that because it is a vocabulary. The divine will has a vocabulary of love, that once we make it a habit, then it's part of our own vocabulary. And so he teaches that too. As he's talking, he's using the divine currency, the love, the fusing, all of these words that we embrace, and that he makes it very simple to learn. For
Yes.
someone who's just starting or someone who's been in the divine will for a long time, this book is very helpful.
Indeed, as you said earlier on, friends, this is a book that you can pick up at any time. It's not exhaustive, it doesn't demand a lot of you. But the one thing I will say about it, friends, is that it's a positive read, Mary. Would you agree?
Yes.
When you pick up a book, you want it to affect you in a positive way. And this is what I found with this book. It made me feel great about living in the divine will. It made me want to embrace it, even my own suffering. He helped me understand it in a very, very simple way. And I guess through journeying through his own experience has really helped me, I should say. Mary, would you like to add anything before we close on this? Because this is just a short video.
No, I think that I'd just like to say that if whoever reads this book will know that they are reading something that is true, because it's going to touch your heart. It's going to speak to you. So it's one of those books that as soon as you start reading it, you want to read the next chapter. You're going to want to go to the next chapter, because it teaches something very simple, as you say, but sometimes it's not that simple to it's like the little way, right? It's the little way that's really the big way. But so this is a book that's simple, but it's profound, because it can pierce your heart with new ways of doing the divine will in a better way.
Oh, that's really, really sums it up beautiful, Mary. So friends, I want to encourage you, if you want a practical guide to work alongside the volumes, again, not discouraging you in any way to read the volumes, but again, this is really a really good book, and you can get it from Amazon. Forming Divine Will Habits by John Caulfield. You can always get it on Kindle as well. So again, I want to encourage you. This will really lift your spirits. It's a really heartfelt book. I really enjoyed it. I'm on to my third read now, would you believe? I enjoyed it so much. So I want to encourage you. Encourage the author, of course, and this will help you in the divine will. And we want to also ask you, if you do like it, to recommend it to others. Okay, friends, thank you, Mary, for joining me today for this short video on this great wee practical tool for living in the divine will. And thank you, friends, for joining me today. Until next time, bye-bye for now.